On today's Minute of the Apes, inspired by this week's minutes, we may have a new way to cover up the word So do you like or
They greenlit the sequel without a story in mind. They just wanted to equal an unexpected gold mine. He said, oh no, as Heston said, I got to go. These are just some of the facts you ought to know as we go. Beneath the Minute of the Apes. Beneath the Minute of the Apes. Beneath the Minute of the Apes.
The only good human is a dead human.
Hello and welcome to Minute of the Apes, the daily podcast where we break down every minute of the Planet of the Apes movies, 1 minute at a time. I'm Todd. I've got Richard and Sean. Let's go for a fantastic minute of Beneath the Planet of the Apes. It's to you. You know, maybe on Twitter people will let us know which version of do you like. This version of
or this version of
you guys are really working the
off.
I want to say you both because I'm the one that has
You're
to
gonna
edit
have
all
to
this.
edit all this.
Okay, we are to minute 63. I'm not going to do housekeeping here. I'll toss something at the end. Sean, tell us what's going on
All right.
with minute 63 Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
We're going to start minute 63 with Brent still writhing in pain and ends with Brent saying he was in Albuquerque 2 days ago.
Let's take a listen to minute 63.
All right, yes, I know her. No, she's harmless. Let her alone. Yeah. All right, just tell me what you want to know. Tell me. She helped me to break out of Ape City. Oh, wait a minute. Stop it! I can't understand you. You're all screaming at me at the same time. I can't separate.
He's right. He has only limited intelligence. We should speak aloud, and one at a time.
Are we to understand that you were in the city of the apes?
Yes, 2 days ago.
All right, as of minute 63, we have 3 living humans, a psychor telepath, 4 dead humans, 1 dead ape, a shootness of apes, and a gaggle of humans. So this is where we get to the point where we find out he was lying. He does know Nova's name.
All Brent needs is a small bit of torture to give up anybody anyway. Oh, okay, I'm done. I know her. He's a wiener. He can't take it.
Here's my bank routing number. Here's my PIN number. Oh, not PIN number, just PIN.
But this is exactly where I put the what we talked about in the last minute. He should fall to his knees at this very point. This should be the penultimate moment of his torture. He's had his own mental torture of that he's around talking apes, telepathic humans, non-speaking humans. He's in a world that's been decimated by a nuclear holocaust. Mm-hmm. Now the woman that he doesn't really love. Let's all be honest.
He tolerates.
He at least has her.
Yeah, he doesn't have anything. There's no romance in this movie.
But he's at least seems to be he seems to be a more decent person, I think, than Taylor does in a lot of ways.
For sure.
And so therefore he's protecting her.
He helps her up on the horse, helps her get down off the horse.
He's a
helps her back
gentleman.
up the horse.
He's
helps her get down on the horse.
Tries to drown her. I mean,
okay, strike against him. So wait, how much does that actually negate what you are if you try to drown a person, but you also help him on the horse? Is that a balance or is that out of balance? But anyway,
it's not a zero-sum game.
This should be the point where he falls to his knees like, stop! Yeah. That's it. He can't take anymore.
Curls up in the fetal position.
Right. But at least in this minute, we find out that not only do we have longer beeps than boop, but we also have a feminine boop. When she talks, it's boop.
Well, no, not just Albino, but we have Mendez. His is also a unique sound as well.
Is it really? I didn't know
different.
that.
His is different than everybody else's.
Now, I've been unfair. We've not taken time with Albina. Let's talk about who Albina is. She is Natalie Trundy, and I mentioned at the very first of this film, Natalie will go on to be in this film, Escape, Conquest, and Battle.
Is she playing the same character?
She is not.
Okay.
She was married to... Anybody want to guess where the nepotism came from? Who was she married to? Do y'all remember the names of the big players in this?
No.
Arthur P. Jacobs.
Okay.
Producer. They were married for only 5 years. He had a surprise heart attack at the age of 51.
Ah.
She was having a career resurgence. Gee, I wonder why, because her husband's, there. But
put her in all the films.
But unfortunately, he passed away. She's still alive. She's still with us.
Oh.
She survived the curse, too, so far.
She did. In fact, I'm going to flip over to her IMDb page. Her last credit was in 1978, according to IMDb.
Oh.
She was on Quincy M.E., which is that... Is that the Quincy?
I assume it'd be the Quincy that we all know.
Hang on, I'm going to click through the riveting podcasting of the world when we actually are trying to go to an IMDb. Yeah, that's Quincy. So her last credit that they have listed was on Quincy, but she was in the TV film of Huckleberry Finn. She did some Twilight Zone, Alfred Hitchcock Hour. She was in the Asphalt Jungle. I mean, this woman has an extensive career, but like I said, she's in 4 of the Planet of the Apes films, and I'm going to be very fair to her. Mm-hmm. She's really good.
Okay.
Especially, she adds such a warmth to Escape that it's half of what makes the whole film work. And half. It's a quarter of what makes the whole film work.
Like a major character in the following movies? Okay.
Yeah. But here's the thing. She's wearing this headdress. So yeah, if you look and go, that's the same person, but you see her as a person.
Okay.
And who for all we know,
their descendants are related somehow.
That's right. Genetics survives a nuclear holocaust.
Yeah.
So we do get to find out that they talk.
Well, right before that, we get cutting between all their different faces, and to me that was unintentionally hilarious, and I wanted to see them cut to Nova, then cut to Cornelius, and cut to Zira, cut to Ursus, just every character possible.
Cut to that ape standing in the woods, you remember?
Oh, yeah, just, oh.
So early on Monday, we talked about the Inquisitors will mix the following techniques, right? The first technique being non-visual thought projection, the second technique being visual thought projection on the wall. They also mentioned traumatic hypnosis. I don't know. I wouldn't know that I would call it hypnosis, but that is exactly what Ongaro is doing. Traumatic hypnosis used ruthlessly on Brent when he is unduly stubborn. By thought transference, as we have already seen, the Inquisitors can hurt him physically or mentally. Convention, the practitioner will merely close his eyes and Brent remains in pain until his eyes are opened. The fourth convention mentioned is also in this particular minute, the spoken word, to which Mendez and Caspe in particular will resort when Brent, under intensive questioning, begins to mentally tire.
All right, so we find out they can talk, and they say they're speaking because he has limited intelligence. So what I want to know is, why was the dude in the church speaking out loud if there was nobody there?
It was convenient for the story at that point.
Yeah, it should have just been beep. Beep.
Well, I think we're trying to elevate this group of 5 of Inquisitors to be superior than maybe even the minister. I mean, that's what I would assume at this point, Verger. That these guys are meant to be.
But don't they usually, in a moment like that, if you're going to have a lesser telepath, don't you have somebody later on that admonishes him for not using his mental voice?
Yeah, why were you speaking out loud?
Don't you at least kind of set that standard? I know that you're still working, but use your mental voice. That's the only way you'll ever become strong as we are. If you're going to do that conceit, but these minutes, more than anything, and I said it, I guess, Monday, made me feel bad for these filmmakers, because I really do think that when you listen to the things you're reading through the script to what's on the screen, it feels as though they were rushed and felt the need to not explore and rehearse and say, what is here? What should we be doing? Because again, you would find Franciscus, if Franciscus is a good enough actor and he's done enough television, that he should know this should be my kick in the nuts moment, fall down. This should be all these things. And they're not exploring it. Were they already so behind production that they just were like, come on, just go. What do you say here? Come on, let's do it. Go. It has that feeling, because this is probably the richest moment of the film so far, and they don't explore it at all. This entire thing with the 5 questioning him.
So
when they just start bombarding him.
The note that we get in the script is under the traumatic hypnosis that Brent actually writhes on the floor with arched back in excruciating abdominal agony as though poisoned from the floor, and he doesn't really do that. He kind of just stands there and kind of crosses his arms.
Yeah.
Now, there is a moment, I think, later on tomorrow, I think, where he might actually be on the floor at some point.
He does eventually fall. He does eventually give in. But again, it's at the wrong place.
But so under this kind of under this intense pain and pressure, he relents and says that, Nova, I know her, I do know her, she's harmless, leave her alone. So he was, to your point from yesterday, probably trying to protect her.
Yeah.
What was interesting is there was a point where Albina talks to him, and he says, I didn't find her, she found me 2 days ago. Albina says something. Nods him and he goes, don't be crude, I'm fond of her and grateful. And then he goes, she helped me. Now that wasn't in the actual minute. They cut that little part. Don't be crude, I'm fond of her and grateful.
Yeah, but that would have been, we've talked before about things that cut out. That's an interesting thing where he doesn't look at her sexually. Where Taylor is, we could go start a colony, we could do all these things. And so he is looking to mate. It would be interesting if Brent, don't be crude.
Yeah.
If he was somehow above that, you've brought in a different characterization that we didn't have in the first film.
And he's only known her 2 days.
Okay, Taylor knew her for 2 hours, and he was ready to get going.
Taylor also, we find out, spent months with her because his whole throat getting healed up and all that stuff. So he spent a whole lot more time with her than Brent has at this point.
Okay, that's fair. I just look at it that maybe Taylor was looking at, okay, I got Stuart. Stuart's a mummy. Okay, I got Nova.
Nova.
So the minute he mentions, Albina jumps in, does her telepathy thing, and she helped me to break out of Ape City. They all respond to that. That moment when they say Ape City, Mendez and Fat Man specifically turn and look at Albina as if, as if reacting to the response that she got out from Brett. And that's when we get the intense scene where they start to kind of cut back and forth between several of them as they all throw multiple thoughts to him.
At the same time, yeah.
So they already know who Taylor is. Wouldn't they have already known about Ape City?
That's true. So I had the same kind of note that when they got so excited about Apicurky, because I started wondering about telepathy. How far does telepathy reach? And if you're the only reality in the universe, don't you know about Apicurky on your own?
We know it. Telepathy at least reaches from wherever they are to outside the church. We know it goes that far. We know it even goes further. We know it goes to wherever Taylor was what Taylor was when he fell through the rock face. Because they have that image too.
I was wondering if it's because he specifically said to break out of Ape City, that he broke out of Ape City, like he was inside the city and knows something about it, maybe.
All right.
But it was still a little like they should already be aware of this because Taylor's running around somewhere, right? I mean,
or in prison.
They know who he is.
Yeah.
And this moment of the intensity of all the buzzing and going back and forth in shots, he kind of gets overwhelmed, and this would have been nice, to your idea, with the kind of whispered voices, to they actually begin to get louder and louder and louder, and there's multiple voices layered on top of each other as they shout.
Right. There's so many possibilities with that, too, because those whispered voices can become screams where he has to look in the direction of the scream and he doesn't know what to do. I was just watching the new Castle Rock on Hulu, and one of the characters in there can hear others' thoughts, and they do. I thought of you guys because they do that, except that instead of doing it whispered, they almost do it where it's a mud of voices, just where she can't concentrate. That would have been so cool here, and I think would have at least given him a little bit more propulsion through the scene. One thing we haven't talked about, and you kind of mentioned this, we did never break down Caspe. Who the actor is.
Caspe.
That is Jeff Corey. Jeff Corey was born in 1914 in Brooklyn. He did pass away in 2002. Mr. Corey, I'm going to venture, I'm scrolling, may have one of the longest resumes that we've had yet. Last credit in 2000. First credit.
Jeez.
Let me scroll. First credit is in 1938.
Yeah, that's a long career.
For me, besides the fact that he's in one of my beloved franchises, he is in Little Big Man, which is one of my very favorite films of all time, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, True Grit, but here comes my real heart. He was in 1980's Battle Beyond the Stars, one of the great schlocky Star Wars ripoff. Oh my God, I love that movie.
I did too. I actually really like that movie a lot.
In fact, I saw it not long ago, and I still really like that movie.
John Boy in space.
Yeah, but you know what? Good movie. Good movie. In fact, that's one of those that I knew it. John Sayles, a really good independent filmmaker. That's how he got his break, was writing that for Corman.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Anyway, I digress. That's who he is. I think we've touched on the 5 now. Did I?
1, 2. Yes,
Yes.
we've talked about